Hi, my name is April Foster, and this is All Things Made New, Lesson 12. So this is about Joseph's family moving to Egypt. We'll get started first with a word of prayer, and then if we have time, and I think what I've been doing for the last few weeks is not having time to do the Bible facts because the lessons are so jam-packed, but this class period, it kind of lightens up in terms of the amount of new material that's being presented. So there's probably going to be time to do some Bible facts on this one, or to save it for the end. Then we'll go straight into the lesson and end in class with our activities. All right, so we'll start the lesson by having the kids reorder all of these story cards from previous lessons. So it is a lot of story cards. I usually just lay them out on the table and just let them one by one do it. In the past, depending on the classroom size we've laid them along the wall. We've used the bulletin board in the back and used clothespins that have the thumbnail or the thumbtack in the back to clip them up along and to make them so whichever way is easiest for you and most conducive in the class, but it's quicker and we don't spend most of our class time going up and down to the bulletin board and stumbling over chairs and not getting clothespins to work with the younger kids. But with the older kids, it tends to work nicer to get up and to just stand at the board and put them on and put them together in order. So we'll reorder the story cards up to the point where we finish lesson 11, which is when Joseph reveals himself to his brothers. And in this lesson, we'll start by explaining, there's just 4 story cards in this lesson about Joseph's family moving to Egypt. There's also some map work to be done, so I'll have my map out and be showing them where the land of Canaan is compared to Egypt, and specifically this land of Goshen. Might have them go up to the big map that we have on the other wall that you can't see in the room and point it out just in general fashion on that map as well. All right, so the activities this week would be to label the map. And so definitely the older kids can do that, and it just has a few things at the bottom to label. Then there is another worksheet that is a little more time intense, where you talk about the different concepts in the story. The first one reads Pharaoh wanted Joseph's family to come to Egypt, and you're going to color that square the same color of the scripture that it corresponds to. So it requires them to read the scripture, comprehend what that scripture is about, and then color in the appropriate color to match the squares up. So this is great for the older kids, although you could do it with non-readers as long as they were listening and you worked through it with them, read it to them. Okay, and then the last activity, which is for all ages, is the concept of 1/5 of the grain and how Joseph stored that up to have it enough for his family. So while you could cover this in previous lessons, those lessons are so jam-packed that I have found that it's easier for me to cover it and cover it well in this lesson, so that it explains how they were able to have so much food, and then how Joseph, the wise man, used this to their advantage and really enriched the nation of Egypt by the trades that he made. So these were different common grains in Egypt during the time period, and even some of them to this day. And so these would likely be different grains that people in Egypt were trading for Pharaoh at the time. And so you're just going to circle what 1/5 of 5 is, or 1/5 of 10. And I didn't get any more complicated than that. So it's not a math lesson. It's just designed to show that it was easy for them to store up this amount of food and to really gain in power during that time because of how Joseph and God worked the plan that God had laid forth in the dreams. So, all right, so that is the end of lesson 12. We just have one more lesson in this book, and then we'll be on to the next.